good evening, and welcome once again to another week of Parents Engaging Parents, beloved community check-in. Once again, it's Altorice Frazier, the Executive Director of Parents Engaging Parents, here again this week, bringing more information, more resources to our community. We're here again with our guest, Karen Highsmith, Vice President of Management Operation at Industrials Bank, in our series of engagement around financial understanding, literacy, and practice. This week we have a strong focus on, as we already have, we've done Banking 101, we've done savings. This week we'll be speaking about credit score and credit reports. A lot of us are looking to elevate our credit, understand our credit, see how credit works. But we're going to have that discussion today. And we're definitely thankful once again to have an Industrials Bank invest in Parents Engaging Parents. And outside of their investment, we want to thank the Terrell Fund. We also want to thank always our parent champions and leaders across New Jersey who continue to support us through their time, their energy, and their resources to making sure that we're able to do this every week. And we look and we ask for your support as well as we continue to push the opportunity of community engagement at the level where we're able to push education, economics, social justice, and health, mental and physical, in a series of thinking and understanding so we could participate in those societal opportunities of growing. So thank you again for coming through. We have some amazing opportunities this weekend coming and next week going into our holiday, and that's our once again fourth year winter coat children giveaway, where we're going to be giving over New Jersey, and we're pushing a number. I know it's a high number, but we're pushing. We want to push 4,000 winter coats across New Jersey for our children. This is our fourth year. Last year we were able to get to 3,500. The years before that we were able to hit the high 25 and 3,000. This year we pushing 4,000. Our aim is 4,000. We're already booked for Bridgeton. Shout out to our leader down there, Troy Singleton, Senator Troy Singleton, always making sure the children are in Burlington is in position with these winter coats, and the county of Burlington, who's also been supportive in making sure that during these cold months and these cold season, this winter season, that parents have the opportunity to bring these coats and this warmth to our babies and our children. And then we also going to be in Atlantic City, Jackie Atkins and the Showboat Resort, where they have amazing opportunities for family engagement. A lot of people may not know the Showboat in Atlantic City is not a casino. It is not a gambling situation at all. It is a family more orientated place, one of the largest arcades in the southern region of New Jersey, where they offer, you go to Dave and Buster's, all those video games, where they have their floor is not a casino more. Their floor is all gaming and opportunities. And they have a lot of other things that they're working and bringing in programming at that location, the Showboat. So thank you again, Jackie, who is the New Jersey Boxing Association's president for amateur boxing. Once again, working with the youth, working with families, and Give a Kid a Dream is her nonprofit that we'll be partnered with. We'll be in Patterson as well, working with community leaders out there. Passaic, working with leaders out there. Thank you to our Pastor Devon Orton, consistently moving the needle on community engagement as well as sharing the word and making sure that the flock of families and community that come inside his and come inside that place of faith, knowledge and understanding is given resources that they also able to utilize on their day to day. And then we'll also be this week, Saturday, at Berkeley College hosting the fourth annual Soup for the Soul this Saturday between 10 to 4. We'll be giving out coats with our partners there as well. Thank you to Always Fresh putting together this coalition of organizations that want to once again give parents and communities the opportunity for some of these resources. And we're going to have a nice meal there as well with over 50 families and participants as well to sit down and not just, once again, giving out items or resources, but also sitting down and building and having a community. So thank you again, Fresh, and also visit Always Fresh in Bloomfield, where those, man, listen, those bowls over there, listen, I'll get mad when they run out the salmon. So I want to thank her for doing that community work as well as making sure we have a economic understanding of commerce. So big shout out to her for staying in business, but also knowing community is so important. Then also our partners, and this Thursday, excuse me, next Tuesday, our partners at Rock of Life Nation, excuse me, Rock of Life Church will be also hosting their traditional Thanksgiving basket giveaway, and we'll be working with Pastor Paul again, giving out coats to the children. This is working with Pastor Paul. This is easily our third year of working with that community of leaders and that community of individuals who consistently want to, once again, make sure they understand the word and have that faith and that spirituality, but also making sure that we have some tangible resources that families can get. So please join there. There's going to be a assortment of other resources available. So stay tuned in to Parents Engaging Parents. Follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and really take opportunity to find it and seeing some of the valuable relationships that we've been able to build, where we're not the ones that's doing everything. We're the ones that want to continue to build community, collaboration, and cooperation in our network of parents and our network of community leaders who work diligently with organizational leaders like the ones we have tonight, that's going to be bringing a strong level of education opportunity to our parents and our community. So always understand, Parents Engaging Parents mission is always to promote civic awareness and proactive community action based on the interests of the parents and community leaders. This is not a dictatorship and leadership. This is a servant leadership move. So we aim to really work with, and we want to have a vision where we authorize and build leadership cohorts that truly reflect and affect the parent community through, like I said earlier, collaborative community engagement in our local cities throughout New Jersey. And we have a energy nationally where we have partners like the Vital Village, the Powerful Parent Network, and many more who understand collaboration, understand cooperation, understand community, but thoroughly understand the civic involvement we have to have. So I look forward to you guys continuously following us, continually seeing what's going on over here at this beloved community. And now I want to bring in one of our community members, but definitely today's guest, Karen Highsmith. Karen,
Hi, Altorice. How are you this evening? Nice to
I'm
be with you.
I'm well. I'm well. Thank you for joining us again. This is our third week. This is our third week. We're getting a lot of energy. We're getting a lot of people who have definitely desire to wanting to continue to get more. So I'm glad you're here to continue to feed us this information. But more importantly, how are you doing?
I am well, staying busy, getting ready for the holidays,
Okay.
special time to, be with family and, share and understand the blessings that we've been given this year. And just wonderful. I just love this time of year.
Before we jump in, give me your holiday story around this time. Give me one.
So
Give me one that you really sit and remember. I don't mind if it was when you were 6 years old or when you were a little bit older than that, because you still look young. But
so 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 this is a special time. Thanksgiving used to be one of those times when I was growing up that we went to either my maternal grandmother's house or we went to my paternal grandmother's house, but we always were around family and cousins and just breaking bread and enjoying one another. Now the Christmas season was something different because, it was always something special. My mom and dad made it a special holiday. And I remember we lived on Second Street in Newark. And it was one of those three-family houses, and it had a back porch. So I used to always think I could hear Santa Claus coming up them back steps, which I knew wasn't true, but you couldn't tell me at 6 years old. I did not hear him coming up those back steps, getting ready to deliver those gifts. So now it's me being Santa and blessing my grandchildren and my great grandchildren with the surprise of gifts and holidays. And the one thing I have taught them is, they can't just ask for something when the time comes. They have to make emotional deposits throughout the year to check in and see how I'm doing and have a relationship, so that it makes the end of the year and the gift giving even more special. So I'm looking forward to it. And I have a big holiday, Thanksgiving, coming up. I'll be celebrating with 25 people and my family. So yeah, lots of cooking and lots of preparation going on. But it's going to be so much fun and so worth it. So I'm looking forward to it. And thanks for letting me share that.
Nah, listen, we have to. Once again, before we get to the work, we have to really know what's going on with each other. My daughter has me coming over, and my daughter is a thorough vegan. So have my first vegan Thanksgiving holiday meal. I'm smuggling in some mac and cheese. It will not be, imagine cheese or whatever. That will, now, mind you, I am going to make her own, and it will have
Absolutely.
impossible cheese or whatever. I'm, I'm, I'm,
Listen,
I'm
I,
having
I
fun, guys. Like, I respect you guys' diet and menu. I'm aiming to get to that world myself, and my daughter is going to lead me there because we could be led as well as parents, So my daughter's going to lead me into that vegan world. What were you going to say, Karen?
I was going to say I have family members, who don't like, you don't eat meat, so we have to make sure we accommodate them as well, with their special needs. And it's just a matter of being together. It's the togetherness that is more appreciated, and I'm looking forward to, because you don't get everybody together at the same time very often. And when you do, it just makes the energy and the love more special.
Well, speaking of love, let me give you just a little love.
Oh, wow, Devon. My goodness. Hi, Devon. Oh, so nice to see you. Oh, my goodness.
Definitely, and that's my brother. Just shouted him out there doing that great leadership out there in Patterson. I mean, excuse me, Passaic, out in Passaic, at his church. He's a leader and he's been doing some amazing work. So I follow his leadership as well, and his community. So thank you for joining us tonight, Mr. Orton, who's also a school leader in early Head Start, another champion of that Head Start space, making sure our babies is prepared before they get to K-12. So we want to thank you also, sir, for your work and for what you do in our community as well. So we here tonight. We definitely here tonight. That's right. That's right. Good to hear. That's right. That's how this is
We
what
have
happened
to definitely connect.
yeah, that's what
What
happened
a
when
pleasant surprise.
yeah. So I thank you. Like, nah, that's not God. That's we love you too. We love you too, Devon, and we look forward to having you up here one night, sharing and engaging the community through your leadership. Once again, a Newark resident, a leader in Newark as well, and like I said, early education, making sure our babies is prepared. So we look forward to seeing you up here. Let's connect when you get a chance, my brother. Also, Miss D Walker wanted to say hi to you too, Karen. Like, we here, we ready. You ready,
Yes,
Karen? They here tonight. They
this
ready to
is
get what's going
awesome.
on. We talking about credit, credit scores. We all want in. So we gonna bring up today's presentation. And once again, Karen, thank you for your time and your energy. And we'll turn the floor to you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time out of your very busy schedules to join in and participate. What a wonderful opportunity to see some old names and get those shout outs. Really appreciate those blessings. Today, we're going to talk about credit scores and credit reports. It's really, really important that we understand our credit score, what goes into making our credit score, how it ends up on our reports, how to evaluate our reports, how to make sure that we can make sure they're correct, because sometimes when you see them, they're not always correct. So I just want to share some information that I hope will bring value and information to how the credit scores are compiled and the algorithms that the credit score agencies are using, and the fact that there are so many different types of credit score algorithms that are out there. And we don't know which ones the companies that we go to are using. We just know they come back and we might see one score on one credit report, or and then when we go to apply for a loan or something, they say, well, your credit score is something different. And understanding how that disconnect happens is important. And then that credit report is so important. So I hope to share information about how to use your credit report and how to monitor your credit report to make sure that it's always correct, so that it improves and allows you to, improve your score, understand your score. And then when you go to make big purchases, making sure that you look at it. The other thing that is going to be interesting is, when we look at our credit report, sometimes there's some old stuff in there that the credit company should have taken off and they didn't get removed, and that has an impact on your score. So I'm hoping that you find this information worthwhile and of value to you. And at that rate, let's get started. So this is just an outline of what we're going to be following, what we've done to date, the first two sessions, and now we're on series 3. Next week, we'll talk about credit. And that's all about, credit cards and loans. And then we'll talk about home ownership. And then we'll talk about future savings, and then identity theft. And we're going to take a break next week because, as I said, I'll be cooking for a lot of people. But Altorice is going to run one of our prior series just to kind of keep us alive and well until we get back on the 29th in person. So credit scores and credit reports. Why talk about this first? Well, the reason I thought it was important to talk about this before we actually got into credit cards and home ownership is because these are the tools that drive how we get credit and how much credit we receive, and what a lender is looking at when we apply for a mortgage or a credit card or auto loan or any kind of credit product, and what kind of interest rate and the credit limit we'll receive. So that's why I thought it was important that we start with, some of the behind the scene tools and information that other people are looking at when they go to evaluate us. Next slide, please. What is a credit score? Well, it's a prediction. And it's a prediction on how likely we are to pay back a loan based on credit reports. This is really, really important because if we don't understand what people are looking at when they evaluate our credit worthiness, then we're kind of applying for things in the dark, and people can, deny us credit. And this is important for us to understand. So it's a prediction on how likely we are to pay back a loan based on our credit report. So when you look at that, the creditor is looking at, well, what's the level of risk that I'm taking when I make this loan or give this credit product to an individual. And there are several scoring models. So FICO is the one that is most used the most often. And then I learned that there are others like Vantage Score. And Vantage Score was a credit model that was developed by the three credit companies, Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. So they got together and decided that we should create our own credit algorithm and credit model that we could use. And one of the things that is good to know and understand is that even though there's FICO and even though there's this new one called Vantage Score, a lot of companies use their own credit score. So we can be looking at a FICO score all day and apply for an auto loan. And the auto industry might come back and say we had a credit score of 700. And when we go to apply for that auto loan, they come back and say, yeah, well, we got 680. And we're like, well, how did you get 680? What they don't tell you is they have their own credit scoring model that they use for that particular industry. So all people who give us loans or when we apply for credit, they're not always using the most common models like FICO or Vantage. Sometimes they have their own and they evaluate our worthiness based on putting our information into their model. So what do credit service companies do? Well, they measure our consumer risk. They use 5 components that we'll go over in a few minutes, and they all use the same general scoring model. So a low score of 300 means that we're a high risk of receiving a loan, or the probability of paying that loan back is a high risk. Or you can have a high score as much as 850, and that represents that you're a low risk in paying back that loan. So the lower the score, the higher the risk on your capability or your willingness or your ability to pay back a loan. And the higher your score, the lower your risk, because the creditor is believing that you have a high probability of paying them back. Credit score factors. So scoring algorithms and how they work. So this is important to try to understand about your credit report when you see it. So there are components that make up our credit score and our credit report. So our payment history accounts for 35% of our credit score. And this is measured by, how consistent we were on paying our bills on time. Did we have any late or missed payments? Because that hurts us. And then how we use our credit makes up 30% of our score. And this says, well, how much do we owe based on our balance? So if we have a credit card and it has a max of $5,000 and we're using 4,000 of it, then that means that our creditor is looking at us to say the utilization we're using too much of that particular credit, and that might create a problem in them giving us the best rate or the best credit limit. Maxing out your account is bad, and keeping your balance at half of your limit is what can help you in your score. So the example I gave, if we kept that at half of what we owed them and paid it off and then used it half again, that helps in maintaining a good credit score and a strong credit score. I'm ready to move on. I'm sorry. Okay. So this is some more about how the algorithms work. The length of your credit history accounts for 15% of your score. So the longer you have a credit history, the better. If you've only had credit for less than 10 years or 5 years or 2 years, depending on the type of credit that you're applying for, could hurt you. If you've had credit for 20 years and you're looking for a mortgage and you're paying your bills and you don't max out your cards, well, then your length of your credit history is going to be 15%, but it's going to have a different impact because your history is going to be complemented with the other two items and give you a better and stronger score. Your credit mix. So this makes up 10% of your credit score. And this is the type of credit that you have. So when they say the type of credit, they're looking at, do you have a variety of credit? So do you have an auto loan and credit cards and a mortgage? So those are considered the credit mix. If you just have one kind of credit, all credit cards and no mortgage and no auto loan or no student loan or any of the other things that could make up a good variety or a good mix of credit, that's going to make this 10% not look as strong as it could be. So they're looking for a credit mix. And then obtaining new credit inquiries. That rounds it out to another 10%. So how many new accounts are you applying for within a certain period of time? Too many can indicate that you're a credit risk. So, if you got a new job or that you're just entering the market and you say, well, I need a credit card, and everybody's coming at you like, okay, here's a Discover card, here's a MasterCard, here's this kind of card. If you take too many of those around the same time, it can make it seem excessive and make it seem like you're a greater risk. If you take one and then wait before you take on another one, that would make your credit inquiries and your credit not as excessive and not seem to be excessive, and you won't be perceived as that much of a risk. Now, the other factor that you don't see in your credit report, but is definitely taken into account when a creditor is looking at you when you request a credit card or any type of loan, is your income. So your income has a significant impact on their looking at you and evaluating your ability to pay the loan, in addition to all of the things that I just explained about the factors that make up the algorithm and how a creditor looks at you to determine if you're worthy of that loan. So credit score ranges. So this is how they're looked at. So you can see, excellent for FICO is 800 to 850, and the Vantage score is 781 to 850. Very good is 740 to 799, and good is 670 to 731 or 661 to 780. Fair 580 to 669 or 601 to 660. Poor 300 to 579 or 500 to 600. And very poor, FICO doesn't include, but Vantage score does. And the reason Vantage score has a very poor is because their model allows you to consider new ways to build your credit that FICO doesn't necessarily adhere to. So it's good to get a sense. And the other thing about your credit score is it can go up and down depending on what you're doing to either pay off your debt, increase your credit limits, apply for a mortgage. So it's always fluctuating. So it's good to kind of keep an eye on what you're doing and how it's impacting your credit score. So these are some ideas about how to improve your credit score. And the one thing, this is that 30%, how you're using your credit and how much do you owe. So what you owe and how much credit you have available, that's 30%. And then if you have a credit debt, so if you say to a creditor, say your credit card, like Discover, you have a credit limit of say 3,000 and you want to go up to 5,000 and you've been paying them, pretty consistently and you only owe them $1,000 and they're like, okay, well, you don't owe me as much as you have a limit for and you've been paying consistently for as long as you've had this credit. So I might be able to increase your credit limit. So if you increase your credit limit, but you don't increase your debt, that will make it a good chance that you might be able to improve your credit score. So I'm going to say that again. So if you increase your credit limit, but you don't increase the debt. So using the Discover example, if I have a credit limit of 3,000 right now, and I only owe them 1,000, and I want to go up to a credit limit of 5,000, as long as I don't increase that $1,000 debt to them, that extra amount of money that they're giving me in a credit limit, that $2,000 can help increase my credit score because it gives me a lower utilization rate. So it's saying, oh, okay, they have more credit, but they don't have a greater utilization of credit. So that can improve your credit score. So this is an example of what I just mentioned to you. So if you have a credit limit of 3,000 and you owe 1,500, your debt to credit limit ratio is 50% because you take the 1,500 divided by the 3,000 and you get 0.50. So if you want to increase that credit limit to 6,000 and maintain the balance that you owe of 1,500, then your debt to credit limit is 25%. So it's not as much, and it makes it a good way for you to have consideration on improving your score. Oh, yes. So there it is a good idea to consolidate. And actually, that is something that we're going to address in our next week when we talk about credit and credit cards and how to treat, the credit limits. Do we do balance transfers? Do you do cash advances? Do you do authorized users? So this is an awesome question, and it's right on time to how we're going to be proceeding and giving you additional information on how to handle and manage credit cards. So yes, thank you so much for that. I like that engagement part. I really appreciate that. So can a credit increase be harmful? Yes, it can if you are using it for maintaining regular living expenses. So it can appear as though it's excessive spending. So if you got that increase in your credit limit and then you automatically spend it all or went to the max on that particular credit card, and then you went to apply for an auto loan, the timeliness of when that credit limit was increased and how much you owe on it could have a negative impact to that creditor's ability to not see you as some type of risk. They could say it's just too much too fast, too many accounts open too soon, and you have too many new cards or too much extended credit at the same time. So you have to be really strategic in how you use your credit cards, how you spend them down, when you apply for new credit, when you ask for credit limits, because all of that has an impact on your credit score. The other good thing is if you're looking, say, to make a big purchase, like appliances, or you want to buy a home or a car, anything like that, it's good to kind of have a strategic plan to say, well, if I plan on buying, new appliances or a TV, at the end of the year, well, prior to that, maybe that second quarter of the year, I should really begin to think about how I'm using my credit cards and, make sure I'm not asking or getting new credit cards or getting limits with a high and making sure I don't increase my debt. So it's always good to be strategic when you're looking at big purchases and how you're using your card, so that when you go to make that purchase, they can't use how you're using your credit as a way not to give you the best rates and the best limits and the best deals on what it is you're looking to purchase, use your credit to purchase something with. So new ways to build credit scores. So this is something that the Vantage, that Vantage scoring that I was talking about, and Experian is the one that is doing this right now. It's not something that's being done across all three credit reporting agencies. Right now, Experian is the only one that's doing this. And one of the ways that they decided to look at this is like, well, there was a time when the only time you could use your rent to impact your score is when someone was saying, oh, well, I'm getting ready to evict them, or I'm getting ready, they got late payments. All of that would go on your credit score as a part of the public record and have a negative impact. So what Vantage, Experian decided was, well, we need to be able to open up the avenue of building credit score or building the opportunity to enhance your credit score by using things that we know people are paying all the time, and that's rent. So sometimes it will require your landlord or property manager to sign up to say, I'm going to allow my tenants to use their rent to help get reported to the credit agencies to help build their credit score. Sometimes there's a fee associated with reporting your rent to a credit agency to improve your credit score. So it all depends on, where you live, and it also depends on whether or not your property is allowing it to go to a particular one of those credit agencies, and whether or not there's a fee associated with it. But this is a new way that we see things coming about that are going to open it up to allow people to build their credit score with payments that they make every month. Mortgage payments count towards your credit score. So they decided it's better to include people who rent as well, and not always in the punitive manner in which it was done in the past. So some landlords or property managements, if they do sign up for this service, it doesn't go to all three credit agencies. It might just go to one. And I think most of them might be going to Experian, because I'm sure some of you have seen that Experian Boost. And that's the feature in Experian that allows you to build credit score with using those non-traditional payments that we make, like rent and utility bills and cell phone bills. So that's one of the things that we see. The other thing that is interesting to know is that there are new FICO credit models that are out there. So there's a FICO 9, there's a FICO XD. We talked a little bit about the Vantage score. All of these include rental payments as part of your score. The challenge is we don't know what creditors and what models creditors are using when they do our credit analysis. Some of them could be using the traditional FICO, which is considered FICO 8. Some of them can have their own calculations or algorithms, and they don't include rental payments. So sometimes it's important to just ask the question when you're working with a creditor, what credit algorithm are they using? Are they using the traditional FICO? Are they using something like a Vantage score, or are they using their own? And this helps you to understand how you're going to be evaluated when you go to apply for their credit. Cell phones and utility reporting. So in 2019, Experian gave consumers the options by coming up with Experian Boost. And they allow you to, say, well, I'm paying my bills, so let that go towards helping to build my credit score. Now, some of the challenges that they're having with this is, bills that are paid with paper are sometimes difficult to get into the credit reporting systems. And the fact that utility companies all have different ways that they bill you for the services that you receive from them also makes it difficult to come up with a standard that credit scoring companies can use to kind of get that information into their system to have it benefit your credit score. So these are some of the challenges that are being worked on now to make sure that it's easier when they open this thing up to more than just Experian Boost. So I talked a little about Experian Boost, and one of the things that they're doing to help improve how they can capture this information on consumers is the internet and this new technology, AI, and computer simulations. All of this allows the credit reporting agency to include more information about the consumer. So the more information they can get about a consumer will help them pull in more data that they can then extrapolate into their model to go towards improving or understanding a credit score for a consumer. And the good thing to understand, another good thing to understand, is Experian Boost only can track your cell phone, rent, or utility payments. It does not track payments you make to personal loans. It doesn't track your credit card reports, payments. It doesn't track any of the other more traditional payments that you see in your credit report. So Experian does, but Experian Boost does not. So that's a good distinction for you to understand when you're using Experian Boost, is that you're being looked at from two different lenses. Experian Boost is looking at, helping you track those payments that are non-traditional to go towards your score. But then Experian is looking at you in a more traditional sense and how you're paying your bills, how much credit you have, and the balances you owe, what your credit mix is, all of that, all of those components that we went over before. Ways to increase your credit score. So if you have good credit and you want to increase your score, you know, you got to pay attention to your utilization, you know, how you're using your credit, you know, what kind of balance you're keeping on those cards compared to what kind of limit you have on those cards. Make sure your payments are timely. Be strategic about opening new accounts. Have a different mix of types of credit and clean up your credit report. Now, if you have bad credit and you want to improve it, you got to do the same thing. But in this instance, you can also sign up for that Experian Boost or something similar and add your rent and your utility bills and your cell phone and your cable bills, because all of those added missing accounts can help boost your credit score. And then have a target if your credit score is below 670 to get to at least 670, because then the likelihood of you being more credit worthy when you're as perceived by a lender will help improve your chances of getting better rates and lower interest on any credit that you're applying for. So what happens to credit scores when debt is paid off? So this I find somewhat like a little oxymoron, because you know the whole essence of having debt is we want to get out of debt. We want to pay those bills off. They tell us, you know, if you have a credit card, you know, use it, but then if you're capable, you know, pay off what you just spent on it so that you're not carrying that balance from month to month and accruing interest. But when you pay it off, your credit score takes a hit. So it goes down a little bit. Now, in a few months, it'll go back up, either higher or stay at the same level. But it's really good to keep that account open with a zero balance, because it has a positive impact on your credit history. So what it says is, oh, she's got this card for, you know, 5 years and now it's got a zero balance. But that means the credit history, the length of time that you've had that card, even if though it has a zero balance, is a positive attribute for your credit score. The total available credit goes down when you close a card. So if you have a credit balance, a credit limit of all your credit cards of say $5,000, and you owed a $500 credit card and you paid it off, well, now it's $500 less. So that means your available credit went down. So it could drop your score. So that's why they say, if you don't close the account, keep the account open even though it has a zero balance, because that limit, that credit limit on that closed card with the zero balance is a positive in your overall credit history and your overall available credit. And then the credit mix can be impacted. So say you had a auto loan that you paid off, but now all you have left are credit cards and not that mix of the auto plus the credit cards. That could also have an impact, a negative impact on you, on your credit score. But it's something that you might just want to pay attention to, because you do want to pay down your credit, your auto loan, but then you might need a new car and you might get another loan. So I'm just sharing with you, be mindful of your credit mix when you're paying off your debt as well. One of the things to take into consideration, if you have a get out of debt strategy and you have more credit cards, look at the one with the highest interest rate and work to pay that one down or pay that one off and keep it open, and leave the other types of loans intact, like a personal loan or the auto loan or some other loan. That way you don't mess up your credit mix as much as you do just making your credit availability or your credit limit intact and making your credit utilization go down. So, Ultra FICO. So, this is a new model that FICO is coming up with, and it's called Ultra FICO. It's not fully implemented, it's just being looked at, but this is one of those new scoring systems to help reach customers and consumers who have not been able to participate in the credit arena as much as others. So it's a way to help build or improve credit. It looks at your positive. So the one thing that they look at that's different from everything else is, do you have a positive balance in your bank account? Do you have a long-standing relationship with a bank account or a credit union? And are you maintaining savings in a savings account or a money market account? So Ultra FICO is looking at you from a more holistic point of view. It's not just looking at your traditional use of credit. It's not looking at your Advantage or Experian Boost, where you're adding these other accounts to kind of build your credit. It's not just looking at your income. It's looking at you a little more holistically to say, are you able to save, and are you saving? Have you been banking with the same bank for a long period of time so you have a positive relationship? And do you have any savings that in a money market or a savings account? Most people use a lot of checking accounts. So they're looking at your balance in your checking account as opposed, and whether or not you have money in a savings account. So that's just good information to know that when they do roll this out, it's a new form of looking at consumers holistically when trying to determine their credit worthiness. How will it work? Well, the information that we just talked about in terms of your bank account and your checking and money in your checking account and a positive relationship with your bank or credit union, none of that goes into your credit report. Just like your income isn't in your credit report. But these are things that creditors are looking at to come up with your credit worthiness. A few lenders and credit companies will be using the Ultra FICO system because it's still like a test case. It's not worldwide, or it's not being used as a standard just yet. But the one thing that they are acknowledging is that it will allow lenders and credit card companies the option to use these other scoring features when they look to give you credit. And it's also going to allow lenders and credit card companies to opt to use the new scoring system with lower interest rates to new borrowers. So it's a positive for lenders and credit card companies, and will also be a positive aspect for consumers because they'll be looked at more holistically when trying to apply for credit or loans. What will UltraScore do? Well, it'll account for your monthly bills for utilities, cell phones, and other bills. It'll provide more lines of credit to individuals who couldn't qualify before. It will increase business for lenders and credit card companies, minimizing the risk for bad debt. And it will give credit scores to about 15 million consumers who currently don't have a rating. Your credit report. Now, before I go into this section, I just want to say I know I've given you a lot of information, and sometimes it's not easily digestible. So the beauty of this is that this information is going to keep be available for you to continue to look at. And if you have any comments or questions, you can always reach out to Altorice, and he'll share that with me so that we can come back in our next session and provide additional information to help make this information easier and more valuable to you. So your credit report, there are 3 credit reporting agencies: Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. And these are for-profit companies that are regulated by the Federal Trade Commission. And they collect and compile data from creditors and public records, everything that they can gather on us as consumers to help us determine, or help lenders determine, what our credit score looks like. So creditors, employers, landlords, insurance companies, they all purchase these credit reports on consumers when they're looking to grant credit or use it for other business decisions. Now, most creditors report information to all 3, and some of them only report to 1 or 2. So that's why, sometimes you'll see just Experian and Equifax to get information, or TransUnion and Equifax. So it depends on who the creditor is and who they're reporting your information to, based on who they use when they want to have information about how you're paying your bills. So the information on your credit report. So it's your personal information, your credit history, a review of your report in the past 2 years. So everything you've done for the past 2 years, your personal information, your name, past names, current address, past addresses, social security number, employers, date of birth, and if you're married, information about your spouse. On your payment history, your report is going to include your current and past creditors, your balance on all of your credit accounts, the dates of your activity, your payment amounts, and the type of debt. And then your credit history in the public record. So if you've had any foreclosures, any late payments, any bankruptcies, any judgments, or anything that's gone to a collection agency, or any other court-ordered activity, that's going to appear on your credit report. So when you get your credit report, it's going to have a compilation of all of this information. So you have rights as it relates to your credit reports. And the first thing is, what is your responsibility? So it's important that you're truthful on all of your applications, and that if you change your address, or you change your name, it's important to contact your creditors and make them aware of that. Making your payments as agreed is always an important factor. And then the Fair Credit Reporting Act and the Truth in Lending Act were developed specifically to protect a consumer's rights in a credit-related matter. Now, who gets to see it? There must be a legitimate business reason, and no one can get access to your credit information and your credit report unless you give them written approval. They have to have a signed agreement that they send to a credit agency in order to get your credit report. That's why when you apply for a loan or a credit card, they always ask, do I have permission to run your credit? And we'll talk next week about, hard and soft credit pulls and the impact that has on getting a credit, on getting credit. Um, you can see it. So you have the right to get a copy of your credit report every year. And you can get one from all three agencies. Um, and you can ask for it and on a quarterly basis, once a year from each one. But it's important that you look at your credit report. You get that free report every year so that you can see if there's any negative information. You can make sure that your creditors are accurately reporting your payment activities. You can see if there's something that a negative issue that you took care of, but it hasn't been removed. You can call that creditor and say, when are you going to remove this negative, because we resolved it. You have the ability to do that, and you need to do that because sometimes creditors are very, very slow in removing things that were negative but have been resolved from your credit report. And it has an impact on your future ability to get the type of credit that you deserve. And the Fair and Accurate Credit Transaction Act, FACT Act, has been amended in 2003 to allow you to get that one free report from each one of those agencies: Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax. The clock is ticking. So most negative information is removed from your report after 7 years. So those are judgments, tax liens, bankruptcies, and other special circumstances. But if you've had a couple of late payments, and say you had a couple of late payments 3 years ago, and you're looking at your credit report and it's still there, you can actually contact the credit report and the creditor and say, when are you going to remove that negative from my report? And dispute it and work to get it removed so that your credit report is accurate. Make sure all of your information is true. Make sure they've captured all of your payments correctly, that your information is correct, and you do have a right to dispute it, and you can. And opting out. So many marketing companies buy lists of consumer contact information from the credit reporting agencies. And if you don't want telemarketers to get this information on you, then you can contact them and opt out by calling this 888-505 opt out. And that will tell the credit reporting agencies that you don't want your information sold to marketing companies. So assessing your credit. This is all about evaluating your credit and making sure your credit report is accurate. So in the middle, you see www.annualcreditreport.com. That's where you can go to get a copy of your report. Check your report yearly before making any purchases. Make sure you get a copy to kind of see if there are things that you can clean up, that the information in there is accurate, that the information has not been compromised through some kind of security breach. We see all the time where companies are having these security breaches, and what they do is they'll offer you a free report for a year, or they'll tell you that they're monitoring your credit for a year to make sure that the breach that occurred that you had nothing to do with is not having a negative impact on your report. But it's also important for you to use that feature to check your report whenever someone tells you that one of your creditors have been breached. If you've been denied credit, kind of take a look at why you think your credit has been denied based on what's in your credit report, because that has a lot to do with why a creditor may have denied you. If you're looking for a job, take a look at your credit report. And some employers, depending on the state that you're in, can use your credit report to kind of analyze and determine whether or not you're a good employment opportunity for them. And especially if that creditor excuse me, especially if that employer, and you're applying for a job and they deal with money. So that's important. So if you say, oh, I just applied for a teller position and I have a bankruptcy on my credit report. Well, if you let the employer know in advance that you had a bankruptcy on the credit report, it won't be a surprise to them when they look at it. And then they can make an informed decision based on where you're going to work in their agency and whether or not it happened recently or it happened a long time ago, and whether or not they think you're a potential risk. Receiving public assistance. You need to check your report, even though somebody might be receiving public assistance, because it's a situation where you may still need credit, and you want to figure out, how do I build it? How do I make sure it stays good if it's already good? So that's something else to check on. And whether or not you're a victim of identity theft. You want to make sure that no one else is using your information and having information on your credit report, because sometimes we don't even know that our identity has been compromised until we look at our credit report and we can see that somebody has a credit card that we don't know anything about, but it's in our name. So it's important to always check your credit report and give it a good, thorough review to make sure that you haven't been compromised and that it has and says what you need it to say to strategically apply for additional credit or just to clean it up so that you can boost your credit score. Evaluating your credit report. Check your personal information, check your debt history, make sure your payment information is accurate, and then check for those special circumstances to make sure that if you had a collection and you were disputing it with the company, that it accurately reflects the dispute and that the dispute has been resolved. So all of those special circumstances you need to look for, because when your credit report gets sent to someone, it's going to reflect that you had a late payment and how frequently your payments were late. It's going to reflect if it went into collections and whether or not you disputed it, and whether or not the dispute was resolved. So it's really important to evaluate your credit report and what's in it. Pay on time and try to reduce your debt, and then set a calendar on when you want to review your credit report so that you make it part of your normal lifestyle, so to speak, to make sure that you can get one. Now, remember, you can get a free credit report from all three agencies. So you might want to do it on a different quarter. First quarter Experian, second quarter TransUnion, third quarter Equifax, so that you can get different reports at different points in time. And all of them are going to be similar. So they're going to have all of the same basic information. The only thing is that their scoring might be slightly different because they might be looking at different factors. So it's important to use this information, get your credit report, and make sure that you're evaluating what you're doing.
Quick comment from one of our
I
attendees.
see that.
Yeah.
Yes, Devon, that you're right. It's so true. Things can get on there that we have no way of knowing who reported such tragic, who reported that travesty, and made an impact on you that wasn't true. So it is very important. I appreciate that response. Thank you.
And I wanted to bring in our behind the scenes guest who's also watching, Head Start lead teacher Tawana Green, who also wanted to second in on that statement as well. Tawana.
Oh, no, that was about something else, but I do have a question. No, she
Sure.
answered, yeah. So the question that I have is, as you stated, to we should set a calendar reminder to keep check on our credit score. So, okay, so let's say we set it for January the 1st, just to make it simple,
Mm-hmm.
and we check it ourselves. And then let's say we apply for a job. So now the employer has to go and say in February and check, our credit score. And then let's say I wanted to purchase a new car. Now the dealership is going to check my credit score. What kind of impact does that put on my credit score being checked so many times in a short period of time?
So when you get your credit report, we're not actually running your credit. You're actually just asking one of those credit agencies to give you a report. So that's not going to have any impact on what's inside your actual report. Now, when you apply for a job, the job is asking for a report. It's not running your score. So we're just saying, hey, what tell me about Tawana. Let me see her report. I'm not running anything to say what your score is. I don't know what your score is as an employer. I'm just asking the company to send me a copy of the same report that they would send you. And I can't do that unless you authorize me to. So when I say, okay, Tawana, I want to employ you, would you kindly sign this authorization so I could get a copy of your credit report? Now,
Oh,
the only thing that's going to impact your score is the auto company. So
okay,
the auto company is like, no, I want to see what your score is.
okay,
And that would have an impact on, if someone else came behind them and wanted to look at your score, say a mortgage loan,
mm-hmm.
mortgage officer wanted to look at your score a month after an auto company looked at your score, that could have an impact because that's back to back. But getting a copy of your report will not impact your credit score.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you for the question.
Yes.
That was a good one. So, how to dispute a credit report error. So, I'm not going to go through, all of the difference, but again, you can order your free credit report, annualcreditreport.com. If you see that there were errors, you can always challenge that by going to the Federal Trade Commission because, if you want to ask them to look into something, you write them a letter, you tell them what the information, what the dispute is, but you never give them your originals. You never give your original documents to anyone. You always send them a copy with your letter. And then you let them know that what company you're disputing, say it's Experian or TransUnion. And then they have like 30 days whether or not to say how they reviewed your request. And then they have up to 6 months in order to send you something in writing. And then you can contact your provider. So if it's Discover or some other creditor or a furniture store, you can contact them directly and say, I thought I paid this off and I have a record that shows I paid it off by certain date, but it's not showing up. Again, do not send them your original documents. Always send copies. Keep your original documents for your records. Make sure that they have your correct contact information. And then if you find the dispute to be correct and the information they submitted was incorrect or false, then they'll send a corrected copy and update your credit report. And you'll see it at a later date. So that's how you would dispute a credit report error. And again, I try to share information about Industrial Bank without any, you know, any requests or any plea to, become a customer. All of this information that I share is information that you can find on our website. And we have a new platform called Enrich. And this is a free service that the bank offers to just people in our community, whether you have an account or not. You can go to industrial-bankenrich.org, and you can sign up, for an account on Enrich. That's not you saying you're opening a bank account. It's just you opening up an account to use this service. Because what this service does is it allows you to put information in to determine what your financial health is and what your financial goals are. And it would give you recommendations on how to improve or how to get you to your financial goals. And then there are all hosts of videos and articles to assist you on your financial journey. There are information on specific topics, and we even have training on financial topics. And a lot of the information that I share with you, I get from our Enrich platform because I know it's viable, I know it's true, and it's a way for me to share information with you that's coming from our website. But it's also available to you if you want to go in and take a deeper dive on any subject that's of interest to you. So again, this is your ability to just do some research, and it doesn't cost you anything. We're not asking you for anything, but we want to offer this service to all of the people in our communities so that they can improve their financial knowledge and improve their financial health. And thank you for this evening.
Karen, thank you again so much information. Thank you to all the attendees that came through, asked their questions, checked in, really played a role. We have one another statement. So Erica Beveridge says, I've been seeing a lot of these reels saying to ignore debt collectors that do not specify exact dates and who are collecting for you. Is it okay to do so?
That yes, because there's a lot of scams going on. And if you know that typically if you have a debt and your provider sends it to a collector, you're going to get something in writing. And it's going to explain to you who they sent that debt to and how they want that debt collected. So, there are lots of people out here saying that they're one thing to get your information so that they can, steal your identity and use your information in inappropriate ways. So it's correct. Do ignore debt collectors that do not have specific information, because your creditor will have to send you something in writing when they send your information to a debt collection service. Thank you. That's an awesome question. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. Definitely. Thank you for that. And thank you again, Karen. At Parents Engaging Parents, we continue to bring resources tangibly and intangibly, and making sure that we have access to knowledge, which we know is one of the ingredients of power. Yet we also must take this knowledge into action, which is the other side of power. So once again, knowledge plus action equals the power that we need to make the changes and the elevation we look for our family. So Karen, thank you again for bringing such a wealth of information. And also remember what she said and what we continue to share. This is an opportunity to come back and take a look at what was shared. If you might have missed something, you had to step away. You want to bring this as actual a presentation that you bring to your family. This can be connected to you having a roundtable of understanding and bringing it back, and we'll be willing to engage even more not next week, but the week after, with some questions that may have come from prior weeks. Understand, we're
That's
going to
right.
be here for two. We're giving you 2 months of engagement. So yes, we're hitting you with topic after topic, but understand this is a whole opportunity for engagement. So if you wanted to ask a question last week, or you got a question from last week, it is not over for that question. Please understand, anything that has to deal with financial understanding and how to practice it is wants to be discussed and engaged during this opportunity that we have with Industrials Bank and Karen Highsmith, who's leading the charge to bring this on a virtual live streaming platforms, so that way there's no more excuses of what they said, what they told us, what they are doing. We are collecting the power amongst ourselves. So continue to follow Parents Engaging Parents. Please understand, all this work comes with a cost. So please, it costs nothing to excuse me, it will increase our opportunities to do so much more if you mind just hitting that donation button at www.pepnj.org. Once again, www.pepnj.org, and hit the donating button. Every dollar allows us to bring information. Every dollar allows us to give out these 4,000 winter coats that we want to bring to these babies, and being able to move up and down the state to do it. We're not hitting anything other than the hearts of our community, and we want to make sure that you guys are part of that grassroots approach, gathering resources readily available, with organizing opportunities to continue to give us a transitional synergy of resources. So thank you again. We look forward to seeing you, not next week. We will air episode. Hey, if you want to suggest which episode, put it in the chat. Let me know which episode between the last three you might want to see again, and we'll air that. Mess around, we might air all three for you. Don't even worry about it, because once again, this information is what's going to get our families, our children to the next level. Thank you again for joining Parents Engaging Parents. Please remember, November 18th, this Saturday, we will be at Berkeley College, who will be having an open house that at that same time. So feel free, if you're coming to gather resources from us, you actually have an opportunity to go downstairs at 1 o'clock and actually be a part of their orientation. So if you're looking for secondary education, hey, we're in the building to once again giving out resources. You can't miss when you're coming intentionally, guys. So once again, November 18th, we'll be at Berkeley College, downtown North, 496 Broad Street. We'll be there. And on Tuesday, November 21st, we'll be celebrating Thanksgiving baskets that Pastor Paul and Rocker Life Nation, Rocker Life Church will be giving out to our communities, and we will be joining them once again with winter coats for our children. And we'll be following up at the end of the month with our December giveaways, and where we'll be at also across New Jersey. So have a good night. Thank you again for joining us, and we'll tune in to you guys not next week, but definitely next week live. But next week we will have some airing for you guys to double back with. Thank you so much, and we look forward to seeing you. Karen, thank you again.
Thank you. I appreciate all of you.
Good night, Unique.
Good night.
God bless you as well, my brother.
Thank you so much. Happy holidays to you too, Devon. Good evening.
Good evening, Ms. Morgan. Thank you also. And what he said, what Mr. Horton said, 4,000. Yes, 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 yes.
Yes.
Okay, no, we listen. We loving this energy, and we look forward to continue to bring more. Please tell a friend to tell a friend. You know,
Yes.
it ain't no fun if your homie can't have none. All right, come on. Let's share this information. Hit the share button, hit the like button. Let it be understood. We on LinkedIn, Facebook, um, also YouTube, and we'll be putting reels through Instagram, giving us little bits of this hourly long program. So we'll find clippers and reels through Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. You'll see us also. So please, once again, engagement is our middle name, and we look forward to seeing you again. Thank you again.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.